Before we dive into the main topic, please take a moment to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like this podcast, and leave a comment to support the channel. Your engagement truly helps. Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is, well, it's very specific. We're doing a kind of linguistic excavation into the whole concept of change. We want to move beyond just, defining transition and really focus on how it's experienced. And we're drawing on this amazing stack of source material that reveals change as this constant tug of war.
It's a tug of war between these opposing forces, both emotional and conceptual.
Exactly. And we're hunting for that C1 and C2 vocabulary that lets you articulate that duality.
And that's really the core of this deep dive, isn't it? It's about giving you, the learner, a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed, to give you the tools to talk about these complex realities. Because if you can master the precise language of change, the language of paradox, really, you get a huge advantage in pretty much any high-level scenario.
Whether you're leading a team or just, managing a personal shift.
Any scenario. And our sources all agree on the starting point. It's this one inescapable truth. Change is inevitable. The mastery isn't in stopping it. It's in being able to articulate its complexity.
So let's begin there with the human reaction. Let's shift gears from the mission statement to the internal experience. Our sources show the emotions around change. They aren't linear at all.
No, it's a dual spectrum. You see these two clusters of vocabulary emerge almost immediately.
Let's start with the positive pull.
These are the words that define a successful adaptation, or maybe the reward you get for pushing through something difficult. You see this rush, this energy captured in a word like exhilarating.
That real high-energy excitement after you've cleared a hurdle.
Exactly. But then look at the other words that pop up. Joyful, cheerful, and this one is critical, convivial.
Okay, convivial. That one stood out to me because it's different. Joyful and cheerful, those feel like personal states.
They are.
But convivial, that feels communal, shared.
Precisely. And if you connect that to the big picture of, say, change management in an organization, the sources really highlight this. Successful, lasting change is almost never a solo mission.
Right.
When a team finishes a really tough transition, the atmosphere isn't just happy, it's convivial. It implies this shared relief, a collective celebration. It solidifies the whole thing. That's the goal state.
That definitely makes the climb feel worth it. But here's the paradox, right? The C1 insight. Even when the destination is convivial, the journey can feel like a total disaster.
And what's so fascinating here is how the sources validate that. They legitimize these simultaneous negative states that are just integral to any big shift. Change is described as overwhelming.
And straining.
Straining. And this isn't just abstract. It implies real mental, emotional, even physical effort. We're talking about having to literally go through pain.
Which brings us to that incredibly powerful, almost terrifying metaphor we found.
Ah, yes. Be drowned in sooth.
That phrase is just... It's crucial because it speaks to a complete loss of agency, doesn't it?
It does. When you're straining, you're still fighting, you're pushing, you're pulling. But to be drowned in something... that implies the forces of the change have totally submerged you.
It's just overcome by it all.
You're passively subjugated. You can't decide your direction. And that sense of losing control is a very real psychological experience during big changes, even when they're ultimately good.
So the experience of being in the change might feel straining, yet joyful.
Yeah.
You see the potential, but the effort is just immense.
Yes. And understanding that dual nature is why this language is so important for you. I mean, why bother talking about the struggle if the outcome is good?
Right.
Because when you accept that the overwhelming and straining parts are necessary, they stop being obstacles. They become prerequisites. And that mental shift is what leads you to feeling reassuring.
So you don't see the pain as a sign of failure.
You see it as proof that you're actually moving forward, progressing toward that convivial outcome.
That frames the emotional cost perfectly. Okay, let's pivot from feeling to reality. If we accept the struggle, what does active engagement actually look like?
Well, the sources get very specific about the actions. We see this fundamental conflict between active engagement and passive resistance.
So you have choice. Do you fully embrace the change?
Or do you just, be open to it? Or, of course, you resist.
And there's a subtle distinction there that a C1 learner would pick up on. To embrace something feels like real enthusiasm, commitment.
It is. Whereas to be open to it is maybe more pragmatic. It's a calculated willingness.
Okay, I'll participate, but I'm reserving judgment.
Exactly. And either path, any form of active engagement, has a cost. And that's where the vocabulary of depletion shows up. Our sources are clear that change consumes your resources. It's a sloth drains you of energy.
And that's not a moral failure. It's just physics, the physics of effort.
It's the cost of pushing against inertia.
But doesn't that just lead to burnout? Do the sources suggest any way to manage that drain?
That's a great question. The sources frame this drain not as a flaw, but as something you have to go through to meet the change's demands. And the change imposes demands on you.
It's not optional.
Not at all. The sources use these two very non-negotiable verbs. Sloth requires sloth, and sloth necessitates sloth. This isn't, it would be nice if you did this. It's, this is required for success. It's the language of executive decision-making.
Okay, so if the change requires and necessitates our energy, and at the same time it drains you of energy, our focus has to shift inward to our reserves. This is where we have to talk about resilience.
Resilience is the buffer. It's the shock absorber that lets you take that continuous strain without being totally depleted, or worse.
Drowned in sloth.
Exactly.
But resilience on its own isn't enough, right?
Yeah.
It's a tool you use in the moment. It has to be paired with foresight.
Absolutely. The sources really underline proactive effort, and they capture it in this planning pair. Preparation and readiness.
I like that pairing.
Think of it like a high-stakes expedition. Resilience is your physical and mental toughness, your ability to just keep going. But preparation and readiness, that's the map, the supplies, the gear you packed months ago.
So you're ready in the face of change.
You've anticipated the demands, so when the change hits, you're already equipped.
So if there's a huge tech shift in your industry, resilience is being able to learn the new software on the fly, despite the stress.
Right.
But preparation is having seen the trend coming and already taking the training course 6 months ago. You're moving from a defensive posture to a proactive one.
And that proactive move takes us right into the next phase. The strategic movements you need to make to get momentum, you've prepared, but you still have to take the leap.
The leap.
The sources outline a very clear choice here. You can stay in a passive state, which is stagnation, to remain in place.
Which is often driven by that comfortable fear of the known.
The opposite choice is the only real path to growth. Step outside. The opposite of staying in your comfort zone.
This sounds simple, but I think for a C1 audience, the insight here is deeper than just take a risk. The comfort zone is often systems, processes, things that feel safe but are actually limiting your growth.
That's the key synthesis. And this active choice, it's not just about surviving the change, it's about creation. The path forward is achieved when you learn to pave the way for sleuth.
Ah, I love that phrase. You're not just adapting to a road someone else built.
No, you are engineering the new context. You're building the solutions that will define what comes next.
And you can't pave a new way. You can't build a new road if you're dragging along a broken down vehicle from the past.
Well said.
And this is where we find, I think, the most profound internal requirement of this whole journey. We talked about external preparation, but the most critical thing to shed is internal. You have to get away from your prejudices.
This is often the hardest part of any C1 level shift, intellectually or professionally. And prejudices here, they aren't just social biases. They're any preconceived notion, any outdated model that just doesn't work anymore.
So, for example, just clinging to the idea that the old way was better, that's a prejudice that creates resistance right where you need to be open.
Yes. If you're trying to pave the way for a new AI integration at work, but you refuse to learn about it because you believe human intuition will always be better, well, that belief, that prejudice, is keeping you stuck in the comfort zone.
Firmly stuck.
But by clearing that mental slate, by letting go, you're then able to equip yourself with SWEF. And that something is new knowledge, new tools, or most importantly, a new mindset.
And the reward for that internal work, for challenging your own assumptions, is real. Successfully navigating change is what allows you to ultimately stand out among others.
You become the architect of the future, not just a reluctant resident, which is the direct application for you, the learner. Synthesizing all this is what elevates your contribution.
And speaking of synthesis, let's pivot to the final major insight from our sources, the linguistic architecture that lets us talk about all this complexity.
Yes. Moving from single words to the actual grammar, you need to hold two opposing truths at the same time.
This is the grammar of paradox. It's such a powerful C1, C2 tool because it helps you avoid simplifying things into just good or bad.
Right. You need a structure that says A is true and B, which seems to conflict with A, is also true.
And the structure the source material gives us is negative adjective plus yet plus positive adjective.
The word yet is the critical pivot there. It's not but, which often dismisses the first part, yet synthesizes. It says both are true. The classic example is, the movie was sad, yet beautiful.
The sadness is the vessel for the beauty.
Exactly.
Okay, let's apply this directly to what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So for a huge, draining corporate reorganization, you don't have to say it was straining, but it was necessary.
Yeah, because that but minimizes the strain. Instead, you articulate the full complexity. You'd say, the transition was straining yet exhilarating. That validates the effort and the breakthrough.
Or thinking about that preparation phase. Preparing for a huge exam might feel completely overwhelming, right? But the action itself gives you stability. So you could say, the preparation was overwhelming yet reassuring.
I love that one. It perfectly captures feeling drowned in soothe, while the act of engagement itself is what provides the certainty.
And that kind of nuance is what makes you stand out among others in any high-level conversation. You can articulate the real paradoxical nature of the experience.
And when you're caught in the middle of that paradox, when a change is both draining and demanding, the sources offer one final resource, a place to go for support.
Which is the phrase, turn to Sweeth.
Such a simple phrase, but it's the final key to resilience. It's an acknowledgement that the energy drain is real and that, well, no one can go through pain completely alone.
Right.
Whether you turn to a mentor or your team or even just a document for clarity, recognizing that need for external support is a mandatory C1 requirement for getting through sustained change.
So let's bring this all full circle. We started with the idea that change is inevitable, which can feel, well, paralyzing.
It can.
But this deep dive gives you the language, the actions, the mindset to move from that initial resistance to a place of confident, articulate acceptance.
The sources really do provide a roadmap. It requires you to actively step outside your comfort zone.
And consciously get away from your prejudices.
So you can pave the way for slave new. The power isn't in resisting the shift. It's in mastering the language to define and navigate it.
So what does this all mean? Well, next time you're facing a professional pivot or a personal breakthrough, try using this language. Don't just simplify it. Articulate the truth. I am being drained of energy by this preparation, yet I know I am paving the way for something truly meaningful. That ability to hold the complexity is the ultimate takeaway here.
That's it.
So a final thought for you to take away. If changing your perspective means getting away from your prejudices, what belief about yourself or the world is currently keeping you in the comfort zone, preventing you from paving the way for something truly exhilarating? Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like, and leave a comment to support the channel.